Hello, and welcome to The Game Buzz, where we take a look at the hottest things from this week's news. I'm Matt Gardner. I'm joined here once again by Jonathan Lester.
Bonjour.
Who's been in Paris this week. More on that later. And Carl Phillips.
Hello.
And I think we're going to kick off, right at the top of the week. Some big news. We'd all speculated quite significantly.
Quite speculatively
even, sort of theorised and hypothesised and made several wish lists on what we'd like to see Disney do with the Star Wars license now that LucasArts has dissolved. And so we came out with all these ideas, and I think the key that came out of it was we all kind of wanted Disney to really use the license and say, you, awesome studio, you should make this. And you, other studio, who is not in any way affiliated with that publisher, you should make this. And, create a diverse range of fantastic games using a fantastic IP. That's not going to happen anymore, because Star Wars is going to EA! Woo!
Yeah, so one of the things on our wish list can happen, which is DICE doing something Star Wars-y. That's kind of cool. I'd be up for that happening. But yeah, Disney had the opportunity to sort of pimp out specific games to studios that are good at doing a specific thing. And they could have let loads of other studios, perhaps even Japanese studios or international studios, have a go with the license and sort of seeing what they can come up with. And instead we're going to get, hopefully, Battlefront 3, DICE, maybe EA could reach out to Crytek again. I don't know.
Well, I think it was kind of, I mean, that was the big one we kind of all wanted, a DICE-fronted Battlefront, basically. Because, I mean, it's Battlefront was basically cribbed off of Battlefield anyway. And the thing is, DICE have shown that they're able to think outside the box. They've created stuff outside of Battlefield that's been quite interesting, like Mirror's Edge. And it would have been really nice. It could be a really nice fit for them. And Frostbite 3.
Frostbite 3 is cool. It's almost a bit of a shame that this didn't happen before they announced Battlefield 4, because you know what? That 17-minute long trailer would have been so much more interesting if TIE fighters were zooming overhead and Star Destroyers were coming in and speeder bikes were zooming through the streets. I might have actually stayed awake through it if that had happened.
This is
true.
So
that would have been amazing.
But I can't help but feel I'd love to see them kind of exploring slightly smaller titles. I'd love to see was it First Assault actually come out. Because DICE could take it small, perhaps. Well, not small, but smaller. Release a sort of a multiplayer, or the multiplayer sort of XBLA PSN title that First Assault was supposed to be. And that could be awesome. And then use it to fuel something larger and more ambitious and riskier, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, there's scope for all sorts of things. But, don't get me wrong, it's easy to EA bash here, but EA do have some good studios, and if they keep their freaking partners program open, we could still see loads of different developers getting on board with this. But, yeah, it's just such a shame that we're not going to see the sort of, I don't think anywhere near the range and exciting sort of variety of Star Wars games that we're going to get. Though I suppose I guess Visceral are going to probably take a punt at 1313, allegedly. / blatantly.
Thing is, I wasn't excited for 1313 before LucasArts went under. I'm definitely not excited for it now.
Yeah, I mean, we can't even have the Bethesda developed, oh, by the way, it's just Prey 2, but we've swapped out Boba Fett. It's literally just Prey 2. We've just changed the avatar to Boba Fett. That's it.
That would have been nice.
That would have been great.
That would have been lovely.
Yeah.
There is a possibility, of course. I mean, they mentioned BioWare. Probably, presumably because, Star Wars The Old Republic is still a thing.
Yeah.
But fingers crossed for KOTOR 3? Maybe?
No.
No.
I think we're better off.
You've got third installment of KOTOR, which is SWOTOR. That's not going to happen.
Let's ask our MMO specialist about this. Like, what else do you think EA could do in that space? Because interestingly, Sony Online Studios are like Sony Online Entertainment. I think have a Star Wars MMO that's either out or in the pipeline. They're still getting to do that. Interestingly,
I'm not.
That's
entirely
not
sure.
being eaten by That's not actually being eaten by this deal.
I'm not sure. I mean, I know that Clone Wars is still a thing.
Yeah.
Clone Wars Online or Adventures or whatever it was. Otherwise, I don't know.
Cool.
That's about my knowledge. Moving on.
Moving on to right. Shall we just rag on Diac for a few minutes now? Because I don't know about you, but I've been waiting to do this for a few days. I've been waiting to do this for a while, actually. Like, it's been a few months since we've been able to just totally rip Dennis Diac to shreds in a podcast. And the one problem is I don't know if this is the right time to do it yet.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously you're talking about the sort of transition between Silicon Knights and Precursor Games. Precursor Games being the company that all the people who got fired from Silicon Knights in the panic firing of last year kind of created and made. And they've unveiled their first game finally, which is essential, which yeah, it's not tethered to Eternal Darkness, but they have made a massive deal about saying this is a spiritual successor to Eternal
it's called
Darkness.
like Dark Eternal. It's like Love Actually. It's like Dark Eternally or something like that.
Shadow of the Eternals.
The Eternal Darkness.
And then, yeah, that came out, and then we sort of clicked on Precursor's site, and it's like, Chief Creative Officer, Dennis Diac. Hello.
And my credit card, interestingly, stayed in my wallet.
My credit card went internal.
Yeah, it did. I think the thing is, though, you've got to wonder if this is actually the project, the sort of tech demo that they were developing instead of developing X-Men Destiny.
Yeah, because that was the big thing. Like Activision turned around and accused them of siphoning off resources, didn't they? And the thing is, now, sort of in the last day or two, it's emerged that Precursor bought a whole bunch of assets off of whatever remained of Silicon Knights to use on Shadow of the Eternals. So they were clearly making something.
Yeah, and interestingly, I mean, this is running in CryEngine 3, I think.
Yeah.
Originally, their tech demo, I believe, was supposed to be running in the Unreal Engine. But from the sounds of it, what they've done is they've reskinned that demo, essentially, from what we can surmise anyway. And I don't know if there's anything wrong with that, really, because the damage is done now. And we've all had a good shout about how despicable Diac's business practices were. But yeah, I just think that personally, perhaps Diac's involvement with this project is just going to make it too toxic. I don't know. It probably does for me. I mean, there's a lot of people who got burned by Silicon Knights in all number of games, pretty much starting from 2 Human onwards. So I'll be interested to see if this passes it sort of, if it gets enough money to really forge ahead, and if it gets investment as well. And yeah, I mean, as much as I'd love to rag on Dennis, I mean, fair enough. It's a new studio. We should give him the benefit of the doubt for now. But I'm not giving him any money.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, we've all spoken about Eternal Darkness being a game we'd like to see back.
Yeah.
Eternal Darkness 2 was a thing that we kind of all wanted. And then sort of it all emerged, the fact that they'd allegedly, the court ruled that they'd stolen Unreal 3 engine code.
They stole a bunch of code. They stole it.
Passed it off as their own. They've still got that multi-million damages bill hanging over their heads.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, you don't really come back from it. And then the untrustworthy development practices. Yeah, the potential for not fulfilling a contract by siphoning off resources to something else, which perhaps you can sort of maybe understand why they'd want to do Eternal Darkness 2, because we'd quite like Eternal Darkness 2. But screwing the people who are giving you the money to make your games, and potentially, yeah, as we've said in the previous podcast, what they should have done is done Destiny to the best of their ability, and then used that to secure funding for a demo, for a pitch. and eventually for development on Eternal Darkness 2. So it's difficult not to carry that into looking at Precursor. And Paul Caparici, the CEO, who used to be a director at Silicon Knights, they've already had to put up a post. They've already had to put up a sort of update blog entry to say there's some negative stuff flying around about Dennis, but he's a really good guy. Really.
Well, okay, like, we've got to kind of, just get this money, like, from an investor preferably, and make a game and prove that, actually, Dyack, you are a good creative as opposed to a terrible businessman. Like, if you can prove that, then I think all will be forgiven. Agreed.
And they've said that they're going to be looking, I mean, because the thing is, it didn't start, traditionally, like, if something hits the game news mill. If a crowdfunding product hits the news mill, it usually explodes. This really hasn't. And it'll be interesting to see if they do make their target. They've said that they're going to be exploring multiple avenues of funding regardless. So there's a chance this game might come out anyway. I kind of want to know who the money for the assets actually went to. That's the only part that confuses me. They say they bought assets from Silicon Knights and equipment apparently that had to be wiped under court order from Epic.
Yeah, I assume the money went straight to Epic. I
hope so.
Went straight to Mark Rain, I guess.
And yeah, there hasn't been a formal announcement at the time of recording this that Silicon Knights was defunct. But these studios have appeared on rental listings.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Well, okay, as things stand, at the time of recording, the crowdfunding campaign has raised $132,000 out of $1.5 million that they're going to need to do it. They've got 2,000 pledges, and that's pretty good. And there are still there's like the absolute lion's share of a month yet left to go yet.
Yeah.
So this has every chance of succeeding. I think they're just going to have to keep up the dialogue and convince us that they're here to almost to sort of make up for some past mistakes and to say we're all about making good games now, not doing bad business.
Agree.
And it'll be interesting to see how closely Crytek scour their code when the game comes out.
Learn from your mistakes, guys.
Yeah.
Continuing on the theme of ragging on people, I suppose it's time for us to have our let's rag on Nintendo moment of the week.
We need a jingle for this bit, don't we? we do it so often now. Nintendo fucked up again. Now it's time to take the piss with Matt and Carl. Thank you, we can use that now. This week actually it's not us ragging on Nintendo, it's Avalanche Studios, the developers behind Just Cause, who have basically said that they got sent some lovely Wii U dev kits and they're basically using them as paperweights because they were asked, why, and they said, well, the audience is too low. We have to put a lot of work into the Wii U to make a Wii U version. And there's no point because no one will buy it and we won't make any money. Because there just aren't not enough people have one. They also accused Nintendo of being difficult to work with as well, saying that it was hard to know who to call, which particular person in the enormous international Nintendo sort of mess, I guess, to actually call when you have a problem. So it's a bit of a shame. And they're clearly not the only developer thinking that, because the Wii U has had almost no multi-platform ports this year.
Well, I think, it's the mess that Nintendo are in, and it's not just developers and publishers, it's consumers and press as well. Just they're sort of confusing absolutely everybody, and it's sad. And Christopher Sundberg said it's really sad. We want to do something. It's a really cool platform, but it's just not up to us now. There's absolutely nothing they can really do with it as it stands, and that's really sad because there are loads of developers saying it's really cool, it's really awesome. So you're going to develop something for it? No,
and it's really bad because already we've had Tomb Raider That wasn't on Wii U. DMC. No, that wasn't on Wii U. We're not getting the big multi-platform games that the Wii U kind of needs to get just to remain relevant. I mean, let alone the exclusives that it needs as well.
Was Bioshock Infinite on Wii U?
No. It's not getting these kind of games. These are the games it needs in order to just keep ticking over. I mean, let alone the first-party exclusives. And there is potentially another real problem looming over Nintendo at the moment, because EA on Twitter have said that Frostbite 3 has never worked on Wii U, and they probably won't make it work on Wii U.
So no Battlefield.
So if they do that,
Wii U?
not just no Battlefield, no probably Star Wars games for the Wii U. No, I mean Frostbite 3 is going to be their big engine going forward. That is what they're going to be using. So I don't know why my voice did that then. I don't know what I was doing. But this could be really bad news for Nintendo if EA, because I think there are at the moment, there are over 10 games that are either confirmed or rumored, or games that are perhaps unannounced but heavily rumored to come out, that are likely or confirmed to use Frostbite 3. So that's that could be a problem.
It could be a problem. I mean, I think the sports games are likely to be unaffected because they tend to use bespoke stuff, so that'll get sorted. But we're talking all of the action games. So many existing EA games already use Frostbite 2, so it's clear that they like to push DICE's engine, and why not? It's freaking amazing. And they've done that. They've done that this generation. They'll certainly do it next generation. And that's a huge blow for the Wii U. The thing is, EA, after that initial "holy shit, we're on stage with Nintendo" moment, they have just distanced themselves so much.
Yeah, they've been a real fair weather friend.
Why.
Yeah, and it's easy to see why. And we're gonna have to do the thing we do every week, which is say, I've got a Wii U. I want this console to be absolutely knocking it out of the park, and I think it can if we get the games and the marketing. Games and marketing. Everyone else is doing it, Nintendo. Try it out. You might like it. That was us taking the piss out of Nintendo this week.
Damn. So yeah, that's the Wii U. We'll probably be back next week with an installment of that. New shit. Let's talk about some new stuff, because new stuff got announced this week. And it's return of a classic franchise. Bethesda have announced new Wolfenstein, or Wolfenstein Joy Division. New Order.
Oh man, Joy Division were awesome.
Wolfenstein Joy Division. That would have been.
They're like Crystal.
Well, that was New Order.
Yeah, I know. It was kind of obscure, but I kind of hoped you'd get it.
I did.
I know.
So yes, Bethesda have announced Wolfenstein: The New Order.
So yeah, the premise is the future is changed, and oh no, the Nazis won, and now they have war mechs, and who's gonna stop them? It's BJ. That's it. That's the thing.
I'm quite.
That's what they call a premise.
Yeah, I'm quite up for that.
Yeah, yeah, actually, I am. Although, admittedly, the only war mech I like mechs in anything, so kind of Nazi war mechs, that sounds amazing. I'm kind of really looking forward to seeing whether or not it can evoke some of the more tense gameplay of the original game. Because the original game was kind of scary in parts, and the Return to Castle Wolfenstein did that really, really well. Return to Castle Wolfenstein did amazingly well at keeping up tension. And we also know that it won't have any multiplayer. Or at least that's what they're saying. Which we've kind of got mixed feelings about, because we've seen so many terrible, inappropriate multiplayer modes that it's easy to say, well, that's fine. But Wolfenstein's got kind of a legacy there.
Well, ish. It's more the single player than anything. But I'll put it this way: the previous Wolfenstein that came out was awful. I still hold it. I still said I thought it was just absolutely appalling. It was one of my biggest regrets for the purchases of that year. So yeah, the fact that it doesn't have multiplayer, I can relate to and say that's fair enough. But it's disappointing because Return to Castle Wolfenstein and Enemy Territory were fantastic multiplayer.
Yeah, they were. They really, really were. And I guess it's I don't really mind that a new outfit, Machine Games are trying to really just nail the fundamentals. But as you said, Return to Castle Wolfenstein was awesome, and I'd kind of like to play that again in HD.
Yeah. I do like the sort of the narrative aspect of it. I mean, we talked when Ubisoft announced the tyranny of King Washington, that we'd like to see more studios playing around with alternate history and stuff like that. And Wolfenstein's always been fairly brazen about dicking about with history. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to see how that pans out, especially in this, well, without multiplayer, it's going to depend heavily. It's going to be all about how gameplay marries up to that interesting narrative experience. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Machine Games pull out of the bag there. And
Nazi
Tech
War Mechs,
5!
basically, and id Tech 5. So actually, we know a whole bunch about Wolfenstein: The New Order. We just don't know if it's any good. Basically.
So yes. Elsewhere this week, actually speaking of Ubisoft, a little thing that caught my eye this week. Patrice Desilets has been fired from Ubisoft less than 2 months after coming back. This is the man that sort of famously left because he was being, well, the creator of Assassin's Creed, essentially.
Yeah, he's the daddy of Assassin's Creed.
Who left, was it a couple of years back now?
Yeah. He went to work on the Order and things like that.
And he wound up at THQ, began working on 2 mysterious projects, codenamed 1666 and Underdog. And then, as we know, THQ went massively bust, and THQ Montreal was snapped up by Ubisoft, along with those 2 projects. And so he sort of came full circle after being creatively stifled and having to leave, and then found himself back again. And now
he's gone.
He's gone again. apparently they could not.
They could not stop him setting fire to his desk.
But yeah, this is the thing. There are 2 different stories. Ubisoft say there were good faith discussions, and Patrice has left the studio now. And Patrice says they fucked me, basically. That's not a direct quote. The direct quote is, this morning I was terminated by Ubisoft. I was notified of this termination in person, handed a notice, and was unceremoniously escorted out of the building by 2 guards without being able to say goodbye to his team or collect his personal belongings, and that these actions are baseless, without merit, and that he intends to fight Ubisoft vigorously for his rights, for his team, and for his game.
Though, admittedly, he did throw a paintball grenade in Yves Guillemot's private toilet. So my sources tell me anyway. Allegedly. That's probably what I don't know. I mean, it would really suck if they bought, if they acquired his studio and then said, sorry, we don't want to work with you because you're too outspoken and you were difficult to manage back in the day, and we don't want you walking out again. So we're going to take your team and your games, and you can sort of just sling your hook, mate. So that would really suck if that's happened. And will be interesting to see if any sort of legal chicanery comes of this.
Yeah, and indeed, what happens to the teams? I mean, they're clearly going to continue developing the 2 projects, but it'll be interesting to see if they end up looking rather different to perhaps what's Desilets.
Yeah, or even end up being sort of merged into like Ubisoft Montreal.
Agreed. And it'll be interesting to see where Patrice ends up as well. If he does hit the fight to Ubisoft, and where he ends up from a development perspective as well, because, well, he's a good guy to have working on games.
Yeah.
We like the games that he's made, and we like to see him back in development as soon as possible. Yes, interesting.
That'd be great.
Scenario, that one. One other thing, this week before we head, an interesting exchange regarding Shop2 and Activision over Call of Duty that you picked out, Carl, earlier this week.
Basically, as it turns out, Activision have been getting a little angry about shops sending off pre-orders 2-3 days before the release of a game, meaning people are getting hold of their games before the release date, and it scuppers their midnight launches because people have already got the game. The buzz isn't there as much as it could be. So they've written into contracts with retailers basically saying that they are not allowed to send their games more than 24 hours before the release date. Now, Shop2 has taken offense at this because Activision tend to release their stuff on a Tuesday, which basically means that they have to send their stuff on a Friday or a Saturday to make sure that it gets to their players on the Monday and that they can play it so it's there on the Tuesday, really.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Because of the way that the mail system works in the UK, it can take between 1 to 3 days before stuff can actually get there. So they've gone, well, we've had enough of this because we have to pay our staff extra money to work over the weekends, whereas if it was a normal Friday release, which is what everybody else does, it means that they can be paid on their usual Monday to Friday wage and they make more money. As a result, because it's a Tuesday release, they don't get enough money. They get complained at by Activision when they have to send the game out early just so that they can contractually be obliged to reach the pre-order date that they've set. And so they've just turned around and said, no, we're not doing it anymore. Any games that are made by Activision that have already come out, we will continue to sell, but we're not selling any new ones. So this includes Call of Duty, it includes the new Skylanders game, and it includes the Deadpool game. So Shop2 have just turned around and said, no, we're not compromising our integrity when it comes to making sure people get their games on time. So up yours, Ubisoft. Ubisoft? We're talking about Ubisoft.
Yeah, up yours, Ubisoft.
Yeah. That's the
but
moral
not,
of
we love you, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, basically Activision go swivel because they've had enough.
Yeah, you've kind of got to say good on them, really, haven't you? Because there's nothing we can do about this, and if they're gonna say we are not, because Shop2 are known for their prompt delivery. That's one of the things they pride themselves on.
Yeah.
In an industry where so many retailers, one of which where we're not rhyme with the but, kind of gets away with delivering things unbelievably late or not at all. So you're playing them, maybe a week after launch. Yeah. Shop2 are who you go to if you want a game at launch. That's what they do. They're very good at it. They've got lots of delivery options. And they've made a real name for themselves by doing that. I mean, you don't get to be like MCV Specialist Retailer of the Year, I think a couple of times.
Yeah.
For
the last couple of years.
Exactly, for not doing the business, basically. So good on them, I guess. I don't know whether it'll hurt them. I mean, it clearly will.
But
that's
the thing. Actually,
they're going to lose out on a bit of money for Call of Duty Ghosts, I would guess. Like a few people are going to buy that probably.
Yeah, but only a few. I mean, from what they said, that's the thing. We haven't even looked at things like that, but from what they've said, because of how they basically do not make much money from Tuesday launches. So any money that they would have spent on getting stock in or sorting out delivery costs and everything else, which is usually covered by the pre-order itself anyway, it won't be that much more that they are losing out on in profit, if that makes any sense, because they've been making such a huge loss from the Tuesday launch. But of course, that's just the initial thing. You've got the sales that happen afterwards when the prices kind of come down. I say that Activision games tend to keep their prices quite well months after launch. So I don't. It's a weird one. I mean, I agree. Good on them, but people will just go elsewhere if they want to buy the game.
I found it quite interesting, actually. They described. They said over the past 4 years that their experience with Call of Duty in terms of profitability has been, quote, a complete failure. So yeah, I mean they're clearly being quite bolshy over it, and rightly so, because clearly keeping their customers happy, fulfilling those pre-order guarantees are much more important to them than Activision buzzing around and trying to tell them what to do. And yeah, the nature of Royal Mail has changed for the worse, quite frankly. They used to be better than this over the past few years. But that's not the retailer's fault. The retailer can't do anything about that. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting standpoint, because I wonder if it's successful, will other retailers potentially take stands? I don't really know.
Well, yeah, if that happens though, then where are you going to get your Activision games from?
They could end up
digital distribution, and
Exactly.
then you've seen the prices of those.
Yeah.
I mean, they're ridiculous, utterly ridiculous. So you're right. It could be the turning point we need to finally get Activision to wake up. I mean, I remember a few years ago, I think it was the release of the Cataclysm expansion for WoW. I didn't get that on the release date, and I spoke to Gamer and was like, "Well, haven't got it." We're like, "Well, we weren't. You sent out the previous expansion last time a couple of days in advance, and it was fine because I couldn't play it until they turned the servers on, basically." The guy at Game that I bought it from turned around and said, "Well, release dates, like street dates, we can't break them." And I was like, "Well, that's stupid, and you're going to get people angry at you." And they did. So it's been going on for years, and you're right. I hope that somebody does take notice.
Agreed. It'll be interesting to see how that one pans out. I think that's about it.
Hang on.
Oh, wait.
Hang on.
Wait.
Breaking news.
Breaking
if you happen
news.
to be in the London area on the 25th and 26th of May, you will be able to use the first ever blood-filled swimming pool provided by Capcom to celebrate the launch and sort of the public unveiling of Resident Evil Revelations. Capcom have actually filled a swimming pool near London's Olympic Stadium with 55,000 gallons of fake blood, which is equivalent to about 11,000 people. And they've also filled it with floats that look like torsos and brains, and like inflatables that are shaped like intestines. The lifeguards are doing zombie LARPing. And they've filled it up with little bandages and tendrils and eyeballs and stuff all bobbing around. So if you're really weird and you really want to swim in that, then yeah, tickets will be on sale. Free tickets can be obtained from Monday the 20th of May. There are 100 available for each day, so if you're really crazy, you will have stiff competition there. So enjoy that.
It is only open to children aged 16 and above, though.
I would only assume so, and I would also suggest that I would laugh at this, but we've had a freaking zombie wedding, so I think all bets are off now when it comes to zombie. Yeah.
What will those crazy PRs do next?
Exactly. I can't. Let roll on Saints Row 4 launch and see what happens.
Oh no.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
I don't even want to know. I don't even want to think. Well, that thing is now Deep Silver opening.
Yes. Isn't it nice?
No.
Yes.
And on that note, it's time to skedaddle for the weekend. Thanks for listening, guys. There will not be a Pwnecast tomorrow, I'm afraid. But there will be a little notice up on the site explaining exactly why. So do tune in next Saturday once again for an installment of the Game Buzz, and we will catch you then. Bye.
Bye.
Right.